Good morning. A warm welcome to Jyoti Nivas College, Bangalore. Today is the third day of our 5-day International Faculty Development Program. Over 1,000 participants have registered from across the world. In our journey through life, we undergo psychological pain more often than physical pain. Yet, we tend to neglect or cover up. Why do most people take care of the body more than the mind? These sessions are designed to help us understand the importance of taking care of our mind as well as the mind of the young adult entrusted in our care. We begin today's session by lighting of the lamp. I request our dear principal, Dr. Sister Elizabeth CS, to do the honor, and Dr. Sister Nimi will lead us in prayer.
Light symbolizes God of divine grace, who is the source and the illuminator of all knowledge. God is present right in our midst as we light this lamp. And we are then led from ignorance to freedom. Lit by the spiritual knowledge, we pray to seek higher ideals in life. Let us bow down our head in prayer. Loving God, our Creator, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin today's sessions. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we understand the impact of the pandemic on the lives of our students, their families, and all our stakeholders. Silence our impatience, calm our worries, and help us befriend the new normal with a tender hope. We pray for your grace upon our resource persons and the organizers of this event. Amen.
Thank you, sisters. Now we have a short and beautiful message from our dear principal.
Jyoti Nivas College Autonomous is a minority Christian educational institution founded by the Sisters of St. Joseph of Taubes and affiliated to Bangalore Central University since its inception in 1966. The college has remained steadfast in its aim of providing quality education in the humanities, sciences, commerce, management, and vocational courses by fulfilling the highest standards of intellectual excellence, code of ethical values, women empowerment, career advancement, and social relevance. Education of Jyoti Nivas College is also intended to develop moral and spiritual values while preserving the essence of Indian culture. We also strive to inculcate in our students a worldview which will equip them for global citizenship and competence. Jyoti Nivas College has completed 54 years of its meaningful existence, crossing one milestone after another. The college has seen state-of-the-art infrastructure development and introduction of courses that are relevant and challenging. I'm glad to note that today the college ranks among premier women's institutions in the state and in the country. We are living in times which can be described as strange today. Unprecedented, challenging, demanding, stressful. We are living in times which are challenging us to go beyond our normal capacities, leaving behind our comfort zones. Times are forcing us to explore and equip ourselves with skills which we had always considered as needed only in the corporate world. Today, all these barriers are being torn down, boundaries are being crossed, outlooks are expanding, perspectives are changing. Adaptation has become the ruling principle today. Adapt to changing times. No one can claim today that they lack the skill or don't possess that skill. Learn, adapt, move on has become the mantra of today. COVID-19 has taught us two important lessons of life: social responsibility and adaptability. These two life skills are being honed as never before. Adaptability is a new avatar of Darwin's theory of the survival of the fittest. If this new law of the pandemic makes it sound scientific and carelessly indifferent to human suffering, the second lesson that COVID-19 has taught us balances the equation social responsibility. COVID has taught us an all-important life lesson which was always there in Indian philosophical thought. Paropkarartham idam shariram, others before self. It's not enough. We are strong with high immunity levels. Others may not be so strong and may have low immunity level and may be highly vulnerable. We have to think of them and make sure we don't become spreaders. We cannot take the stand that Cain took when God asked him where Abel was. Cain says, I am not my brother's keeper. COVID has taught us that we are our brother's keeper. COVID has taught us to think beyond ourselves, to get out of our narrow, insular prejudices and think globally. Again, this idea was always there in Indian philosophical thought. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Each one of us will prosper only if all of us prosper. Each one is safe only if all of us are safe. The pandemic has thrown up challenges never dreamed of before. Technology is playing a bigger and bigger role in our lives. Online is a new buzzword. Portals, platforms have become household terms. Technology is no longer confined to industry and the corporate world. It has gate-crashed like anything into the academic world. E-teaching and learning have become the norm of today. The ongoing COVID crisis has changed the dimension and approach towards education. The impact of this crisis is long-term. Academicians and students will have to embrace modern technology and digital pedagogy. as learning mechanisms. The young and the old are challenged like never before to become techno-savvy. Informed and productive use of digital media is going to be the game changer for the field of education in the future. Our yearning to learn new things will never fade. And in keeping with the recent changes, we adapted very quickly the digital forum through organizing online webinars and meetings to be academically active and progressive in our thinking. On this note, I invoke the blessings of the Almighty that we stay safe and healthy. I bid a warm welcome to all the delegates to this webinar. I also welcome all the panelists of the webinar. May the fellowship of the faculty members between the colleges thrive. May this platform, which has brought all of us together, ignite our minds and enhance our commitment towards our student community. As I wish the organizers of the webinar today, I wish each one of you God's abundant blessings. Thank you.
Thank you, sister, for that caring message. I now request Dr. Nirmala Vas to take over the proceedings.
Thank you, Professor Mary De Cruz. Instruction to participants. We would like to inform you that the live streaming of presentations is on a platform where you can view the presentation, but interaction or participation can only happen through Q&A panel. Kindly note, towards the right corner of your screen, you will find a Q&A panel. You can post your queries there for review. Please mention your name along with your question. The presenter will respond to your questions at the end of each session. We will now begin with the first session of the day. It gives me immense joy to introduce my brother, Dr. Darryl J Britto. He's a dedicated and accomplished doctor who has graduated in medicine and surgery with a prestigious Bal Chintoba Prize in Forensic Medicine from BJ Medical College, Pune. Dr. Britto is a qualified medical practitioner registered with the General Medical Council, London. He's a member of the Royal College of Psychiatrists, UK since 1991. He has been accorded the status of specialist in psychiatry by the GMC under the European Specialist Medical Qualifications Order in 1995. He is approved by the Secretary of State, UK under Section 12 of the Mental Health Act in having special expertise and knowledge in the diagnosis and treatment of mental disorders. Dr. Darryl is a member of the British Association for Behavioral and Cognitive Psychotherapies, member of EMDR Association UK and Ireland, and Board of Trustees Anxiety UK. He's a responsible individual CQC for healthcare services provided by Britto Healthcare Limited. Dr. Britto has held several consultant appointments in the UK, consultant psychiatrist for Merseyside Police. He is presently an independent consultant psychiatry, consultant clinical advisor to Vitality Health UK and Board of Trustees Anxiety UK. He's a recipient of the Lawyer Monthly Expert Fitness Award 2019 in recognition of expertise at a medico-legal interface. He has spoken at several national and international conferences and meetings. With 32 years of experience in the field of psychiatry, Dr. Darryl is the apt person for today's session on the topic From Blissful Ignorance to Phobic Endurance. Over to Dr. Darryl.
Good morning. I'd like to express my sincere thanks and appreciation to the management of Jyoti Nivas College, Bangalore, especially Sister Elizabeth, to have given me the opportunity to talk on the subject, Reconfiguring the Mind, Post-COVID Consciousness, from Blissful Ignorance to Phobic Endurance. I appreciate the effort undertaken to expand on this wonderful topic. However, having read the topic, my immediate thoughts were, should it read post-COVID reconfiguring of human consciousness? After all, consciousness is a supreme quality of the human mind. I'd like to talk about a post-corona paradigm shift of thought, emotions, and behaviors. Millions of years ago, the fish said to the amphibian, "Mr. Amphibian, I bequeath you my skins, my gills, my lungs, and my freedom in water. Why don't you stay with me in these beautiful seas?" The amphibian replied, "No thanks, Mr. Ancestor. I would like to make a significant shift in the paradigm of biological evolution." Saying this, the amphibian crept on land. The Stone Age came, the Bronze Age came, the age of nuclear armament came into being, man stepped on the moon and has sent rocket to Mars. Such a paradigm shift of thinking and behaviors would not have occurred in the absence of phobic endurance of that ancestral amphibian who was blissfully ignorant of the dangers of living in a land where he has to adapt to his biological systems, changed barometric pressures from both water and air, and hunt for food in a changed natural environment. 350 million years, that's what it took. Blissful ignorance was constantly linked with phobic endurance of a constant new changing environment. The two, thoughts and behaviors, are intricately linked in the psychology of every living creature for survival and propagation, evolution and growth, success and failure. Today, in a post-corona state, humanity is yet again at the brink of that dual thought, to live or to die. The speed and rapidity with which corona came into being has been shocking. It's induced a sense of hopelessness, despair, brought forth an acute awareness of the mortality of the human race. It has led to a state of phobic endurance. A whole century has passed by since the Spanish flu. We lived in blissful ignorance. Climate change pales into insignificance, despite it being a threat to human race. This particular problem has brought about a paradigm shift in global human thinking and consciousness. Let us firstly understand the concept of blissful ignorance. The English defines blissful ignorance as a state of not knowing and not wanting to know about unhappy things or possible problems. Existing in blissful ignorance makes one happy. Lack of knowledge of the truth makes one escape from an unpleasant or unpalatable situation or thought. It is the acute exposure to the knowledge of mortality and awareness of nihilism that has brought enormous benefits since post-COVID. It is in the context of the pandemic and in this talk that I thought about the concept of blissful ignorance. Thomas Gray, a poet and a professor at Pembroke College, Cambridge, coined the phrase, "Where ignorance is bliss, it's folly to be wise." He wrote this in a poem in 1742, Distant Prospect of Eton College. He nostalgic reminded himself about the bliss of the youth of his careful days of playfulness, blissful ignorance, unmarred by the dark realities of adult life, phobic endurance. Bliss is a state of happiness and peace. Thomas Gray was writing about his childhood days when living in ignorance of certain facts of life was to be in a state of happiness. The opposite of ignorant bliss is knowledge is power. Ignorance is bliss. As creatures of happiness, human beings would much prefer not to have the knowledge that a pandemic can come, that life can be mortal. It is this that we need to understand and live, because to live in this knowledge is to live with a state of phobic endurance. Psychology defines phobia as an irrational or excessive fear. Fear of contracting a virus that has no definite cure, in which the death rate is approximately 2%. We have to live with the knowledge of mortality. Potentially, any one of us could contract the virus because we need to breathe the air we live in. This knowledge that this pandemic can be mortal is a form of phobic endurance of the fear of death and disease. Phobia arises from the Greek word phobos, meaning fear or horror. In Greek mythology, there are twin gods called Phobos and Deimos. They were gods of spirits of fear. Deimos represented terror and dread, while his brother Phobos was panic, flight, and destruction. They were sons of the war god Ares and goddess of love Aphrodite. They accompanied the father into battle, driving his chariot and spreading fear in its wake. Phobia is an anxiety disorder. A behavior characteristic of phobia is endurance. The sufferer remains present in his phobia, but continues to experience high levels of anxiety, and in this case, unavoidable anxiety, because you have to live life. Phobia is associated with emotional, behavioral, and cognitive elements. There is a relationship between the three. The way we think is cognition. We think negatively in times of crisis. The way we feel is anxiety. We freeze, we faint, we sweat, breathe heavily. The way we act is our behavior. Avoidance, run away from the fear or the danger or threat. These concepts were no better explained than by Margaret Thatcher, the British Prime Minister. Watch your thoughts, for they will become actions. Watch your actions, for they'll become habits. Watch your habits, for they'll forge your character. Watch your character, for it'll make your destiny. Margaret Thatcher. There is an undeniable fear of the post-COVID consciousness. Survival is a priority of the human race. Just like that amphibian strived to maintain his tribe and clan with phobic endurance of a newfound land, so is the human race deeply entangled in the unavoidable phobic endurance of a newfound threat to survival. We need scientific information about the virus, promise of a vaccination, and somewhere to feel safe. We need to remind ourselves that we've endured previous pandemics, wars, droughts, and tsunamis. We need to reassure ourselves that blissful ignorance of pre-COVID will turn to a stoic determination to survive under the umbrella of phobic endurance. Yes, we shall overcome COVID-19. I would like to draw to your attention the reality of this by giving you two examples of daily living. The first example is that of a marine soldier who aboard the ballistic submarine are habitually spared bad news whilst underwater to avoid undermining their morale. Any crew that left the British port around the globe are likely to be blissfully ignorant about the extent of the rapid unfurling crisis until they return to land. They subsequently have to live and endure the phobic existence of contracting the virus. The second is this fundamental shift, a paradigm shift from reading to living a science fiction. There is an airy similarity between a science fiction written by Nicola Griffith called Ammonite. The story of coronavirus reminds me of that science fiction. This is a story of an inhabitant of Earth called Margie, who's sent to planet Jeep, actually GP, Jeep, which is a home to a society of women isolated from humanity. Contact was lost with this extraterrestrial human colony because a virus invaded the planet, leading to the death of all men on that planet. The remaining female population was quarantined from Earth. Marge was sent from Earth to test a vaccination. She's captured by a tribe, isolated, and cannot undertake the vaccination program. She herself becomes a victim to isolation and phobic existence on a distant planet. She learns to adjust to a new planetary environment, reawakens her consciousness, and lives a new life. We need to follow Marge to awaken that slumbered consciousness. What else this coronavirus shifted in our mind? It's been a catalyst for change. Universal, ubiquitous, it's everywhere, and urgent. It's a biological threat to the human race. From the Chinese dynasty to the chivalry of the Middle Ages, the post-independence self-esteem in India, the growth of the 1960s and the 70s. In each of these eras, human beings had a way of organizing emotions into an overarching social and cultural system. Each had its experience of being alive and palpable. This time, COVID-19 has changed our lives very quickly. It is universal and ubiquitous. In a matter of days, the virus is rewriting our imagination. It is urgent. What felt impossible now seems thinkable. We're entering a new era of thinking, feeling, and behaving, the triads of human psychology. All this was probably long overdue. Has COVID-19 been a catalyst for such a change? We probably were overdue for a shift in our consciousness. We have been agonizing and ruminating about climate change, caste system, racial discrimination, and yet acting as if none of it exists. We were conscious but sleepwalking in a world that we chose not to be aware of because of phobic avoidance. All of a sudden, we are acting to save lives, avoid mass deaths. Precious human disasters of recent times haven't necessarily shifted our daily habits. This crisis has. This crisis is different. It's global. It's a biological threat. All of us have to deal with this change. The next paradigm shift is from mistrust to trust in science. Coronavirus has awakened our interest in science. Every time a scientific progress is made, it seems to lag behind its own success. 7.8 billion people on Earth is itself a stupendous social and scientific achievement. But the whole scientific system is a constant technical improvisation, and it keeps crashing down behind its own success. We believed that science would improve climate change. It hasn't. We have not acted upon it. We know that accidental intervention with climate will lead to mass extinction, but we don't act on it. This knowing but not acting is part of the old structure of feelings and behavior. It is to ensure that there is no phobic anxiety. Now comes a disease that can kill anyone on the planet, let alone the frail and old. It affects the lean beggar and the fat king. It is invisible. It spreads because of the way we move and congregate. We're now looking to trust our science. We want a vaccine. We've had a great deal of mistrust of science in its proclamation of climate change. This is another shift of the paradigm in human consciousness and thinking. Can we convert our mistrust of science to trust? Do we really believe that a vaccine will save the human race? Do we really believe that science is an answer to our survival? I'd like to move on to yet another paradigm shift from information hiding to information sharing. The rugged sea floor influences the behavior of ocean currents. It determines the vertical mixing of water. The deepest part of the oceans is the Marianas Trench. It's approximately 11 kilometers deep. The churning of water in these valleys determines the Earth's climate. This is information required to improve the models that forecast future climate change. It is the oceans that play a critical role in moving heat around the planet. How many of us knew that? If you want to understand precisely how sea levels will rise in different parts of the world, we need good ocean floor mapping. Companies, institutions, governments, all have failed to disclose this information. It is within their remit. They have this knowledge. Despite this, information is not shared. It's hid from human society. In post-COVID consciousness of thinking, behaving, and feeling, we need governments, industry, philanthropists, academics, citizen scientists to contribute to this process by sharing information. We need to come together if we have got to deliver knowledge that's fundamental and essential to humankind. At each stage of our lives, we need to constantly watch that fear, that endurance, that phobic anxiety, the anxiety of information sharing rather than living in information ignorance. What you don't know does not hurt you. Ignorance is lack of information. Unfortunately, a deliberate withheld information from the human race is far detrimental to our survival. We avoid imbibing useful information, even if it benefits our health. We need to avoid the immediate pain rather than make better long-term decisions. As a human race, we have become impatient to succeed, impatient to become rich, impatient to become famous, impatient to even colonize Moon and Mars, let alone the more recent impatience not to use Chinese goods. The self-absorbed ambition of this nature has got to change to collective compassion and spiritual consciousness. When we face tragic situations, it reveals the deeper values of human compassion. This response is like an automatic psychological response to seeing mass suffering. We need to attune ourselves to this changed psychological state, becoming more aware of your relationship with others, the state of interdependence. You cannot survive without community. Humanity has to move on from my country, my religion, to the togetherness of 7.8 billion people. COVID-19 has brought into sharp focus the concept of collective compassion, a concept so vividly and repeatedly stated by the Dalai Lama. On the opposite side is the vaulted ambition so characteristic in Shakespeare's play Macbeth. COVID-19, is this an act of malicious knavery, a rogue and mischievous act of God, or nature, or divine? We lack interpersonal interaction and our interaction with spirituality. We have suddenly turned towards understanding that spirituality is a much needed aspect of our lives in the wake of the realization that there's a fine dividing line between human survival and human extinction. What else has COVID-19 done to us? Neoliberal ideologies and economic disparity has come to the fore. The present generation is absorbed in neoliberal and modern monetary theory of quantitative easing. Let's put some money into the stock market. This is not just from individuals, but by governments buying bonds. It's led to a significant income disparity among sections of the community within each nation. There is going to be a volcanic disruption to social structure. Riots and demonstrations are a touching point on the raw nerve of social inequality. COVID-19 has brought into sharp focus the question of inequality of wealth and health, leading to a disproportionate number of people dying from the Black and the Asian minority groups in Western society. We need to wake up to understand that the virus spares no one, and we need better measures to share resources in society. Capital and democracy are dancing on a delicate pin. They are interdependent. Prior to COVID and since the most recent financial crisis, money has been printed and dropped by helicopters on stock markets. This is going to resonate badly when social inequality and disproportionate deaths in the deprived community come to the fore. It was all too easy for governments all over the world to pay companies to retain people in the immediate aftermath of the crisis of COVID. We are paying people not to work. This is a bridge assistance program. It will lead to massive deficits in government balance sheets. Transfer of money from the public sector on borrowed money to private earnings will inevitably have to result in a payback. The share of the world's GDP is nearly 50% of the economy in terms of its debt. This was not seen any time after the Second World War. Even at the height of the financial crisis of Lehman Brothers, we were not in such great deficit. The highest deficit of the United States was 7.5% of GDP. It's now 20%. The debt ratio was never about 30%. Now it's 100%. Who's going to pay for all this? Corporate tax, inheritance tax, personal tax, and hopefully this debt will not be monetized by hyperinflation. The reality is that the government does not create income. It borrows money and redistributes the income. Decades of pro-capital financial policies will come to roost. Economists have begun to re-evaluate extreme divergence, and that too urgently in the post-COVID crisis. The sickening economy, the huge differential between the common man and the stock market valuation, the irrational exuberance of the stock market are irreconcilable. It's not confidence in the banking system, but we're banking on the discovery of a vaccine. Social distancing is now anti-economic growth. Whilst it's unlikely that the economy will ever enter into a lockdown again, the need to be austere, the need to be careful with finances is going to take a center stage in government policy decisions. Nobody ever thought that there will be a morphogenesis of health to financial crisis. Will the discovery of a vaccine save humanity? This morphogenesis is a new concept. Little did we realize that our health system is not up to the mark to face such situations. A future freeze of credit balance will lead to further damage in healthcare. The habit of frugality will be the norm. I'm skeptical about the discovery of vaccine, whilst I appreciate that the fundamental change in the dynamics of private entrepreneurship would depend on the discovery of vaccine, and it would be a game changer. It's not easy to just develop a vaccine overnight. Government can provide liquidity to the brim, but if there is no vaccine, there's going to be corporate insolvency, mass unemployment, fundamental change in private enterprise. A lot more financial regulation will ensue. The post-crisis of 2008 will be a minuscule given the present $7 trillion deficit of the United States. The collapse of the worldwide healthcare system has shown that it does not have the ability to deal with overwhelming health problems. Despite the advances in medical technology and treatments, a small virus has held the whole human race to ransom. Any amount of medical advances, understanding the genetic code of the RNA that governs that virus, still cannot help us to live in phobic endurance. Genomic manipulation can be applied to change genetic diseases, but a minuscule of a virus has held us to ransom. It's brought the medical profession to its knees. It's only when we change our behaviors, our thinking, our emotions, that we will be able to save ourselves and slow and stop the spread of this disease. A tsunami of psychological and psychiatric distresses have come to the fore as a result of post-COVID. People have to deal with corona illness. Families are unable to say farewell or console or bury their loved ones. Children unable to take exams. There's a desocialization of society through lack of face-to-face contacts. Businesses vanishing. Couples forced to confront their inability to spend time together. Increase in domestic violence. These are but just few examples of a changed paradigm post-COVID consciousness. The phobic endurance extends to the realization that thousands of deaths were the consequences of policy and capacity failures, economic problems, unemployment. The COVID-19 earthquake has unleashed the aftershocks, which will be far worse. The phobic endurance to realize that the suicide rates will increase in society because social systems have become anomic, absence of normality. One very interesting concept that arose as a result of COVID-19 was something called anthropause. Anthro is man, and pause is a pause in man's activity because of global lockdown. This is a new phrase coined by the BBC. The global planetary shutdown led to a complete pause in human activity. This, in anthropological terms, is called anthropause. The global temporary shutdown in human activity has had a profound impact on other species. Measuring the impact of the absence of humans in many landscapes help understand animal movements. Small-scale tracking devices fitted to animals helped us understand their behavior. The whole Earth, at least on a temporary basis, became a protected area. The first anthropause study was post-Chernobyl nuclear power disaster. Learning from that extreme event led to the realization that in that particular area, there was an increase in wildlife when humans stopped using that particular part of the world. Free movement of wildlife, increase in bird population, marked reduction in the pollution of air and water, increased awareness of such sociological phenomena can be construed as a change from the previously experienced blissful ignorance to a phobic endurance that there is a potential that we're destroying the planet with the human activity of 7.8 billion people. Such a consciousness should be sustained despite the fear. We blissfully ignore reality. The desire to avoid is widespread. My message is avoid avoidance. Try to avoid behaviors where you run away from the reality of life. We're impatient to become rich. We're impatient to become famous. We're impatient to even colonize the moon and Mars. Avoid avoidance. To conclude, regardless of the pandemic of COVID-19, virologists predict that the next severe pandemic is inevitable and many more in coming years. We need the courage to face such setbacks. I've lost something valuable with COVID-19. It has forced me to internalize the objective reality that as a human being, I am just as susceptible to the amoral workings of natural selection as any chimp or virus. My son has to live in this age, an age of a loss of a state of blissful ignorance, that life is mortal and mortality can be here and now. I've given you several examples of a paradigm shift of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. I'm of the view that when it comes to human thinking, sadly, nothing has and nothing will shift as long as humanity exists. From the lessons of the Kurukshetra war, where Krishna advises Arjuna on the battlefield about karma, dharma, righteousness, and moksha, right up to the modern day philosophers and politicians who talk about Atma Nirban and boycotting Chinese goods. We will continue to fight wars. We will stab each other. We believe in being fiercely independent when we know it's destructive and when we know that life, irrespective of it, is interdependent. Nothing has, nothing will change the human mind. It has a sense of its own, and only until eternity or self-destroyed destiny will it part. Blissful ignorance to phobic endurance. I'm not immune to destruction. Possibly in a few months, we will all revert back to that old normal. The first of many calamities will likely to unfold. Are we prepared for the unexpected? More water shortages, more food shortages, electricity outages, devastating storms, cyclone, droughts, and floods. We need to pay more attention to our emotion of love, hatred, jealousy, ambition. Will we ever change? My view is yes, but only for a few hours. We will retreat back into being blissfully ignorant because we cannot live with phobic endurance. Even though survival was crucial all along, I'm sad about the way it has now explicitly taken over parts of our mind that used to be free for enjoyment, pleasure, and basking. As the human race wrestles with the challenges of the virus, I'm reminded of Winston Churchill's famous saying, keep calm and carry on. It suggests human resilience in the face of unexpected adversity, sustaining a common bond between human beings, facing a shared threat, yet remaining calm or cheerful, despite the phobic calamity. Thank you very much.
Our first question to you is, do you consider the lifting of lockdown blissful ignorance?
Difficult question because we are no longer blissful and we are no longer ignorant. I think it's sheer negligence. That's my answer. I think we are impatient and we have reverted back to our old normal. That's what I say. We will never change.
Okay. I have another question for you, Doctor. What mechanism can we devise to reach out to the unusually large number of people affected emotionally?
Mass education, mental health programs, increased communication within communities, smaller communities, churches, religious organizations, improving our social care system, putting in more money within governments that should involve the third sector, such as the NGOs. So I would think a better understanding of human communication systems.
My next question to you is, has the WHO announced any strategic plans to combat the virus?
No, I'm not aware of that. I do not track the WHO to that extent. But I'm sure each nation has its own policy depending on its personal and its local conditions. Look at China. They've had a small outbreak in Beijing about a week ago, but they contained it yet again. And they have not more than 85,000 cases, and they started in December. Look at India. Its first case was somewhere in the first week in March, and today it's got 400,000 cases or more, and climbing rapidly. So even if the WHO were to, I think local conditions, local economy, local politics would be far more important.
I have one last question for you, Dr. Darryl. How has social distancing changed the mindset of people?
It's made us more aware that what was previously considered normal etiquette is now considered abnormal. In Western societies, when we meet each other, sometimes we hug, but now hugging is antisocial. It is absolutely social to sit 6 feet apart and yet express our views. So I think that the norms have changed, and this is one lesson we need to learn, that what we think today is not necessarily the same for tomorrow.
All right. Thank you for answering all our questions, Dr. Darryl. These times can be difficult times for all of us. The most common emotion faced by all is fear. It makes us anxious, panicky, and can even possibly make us think, say, or do things that we might not consider appropriate under normal circumstances. While the question still lingers, is COVID a catalyst for change? We should realize that we must free oneself and start living in the present moment. That would be our takeaway from this session, Dr. Darryl. Thank you for that very informative presentation. Thank you for leaving us with the thought that mortality is the present and nothing has changed and it will not change the now. We are really happy that we had an interesting session with you today. I congratulate you, Dr. Darryl, and I wish you a very good day.
Thank you very much.
Participants, kindly note.
Ask him to stay on.
Dr. Darryl, I request you to please continue to stay on. Participants, kindly note, this link will be deactivated right now. The new link has already been posted in the WhatsApp groups. Kindly join the new link in 5 minutes time. We regret the technical inconveniences. Thank you.
Welcome back. It's my privilege to introduce Supriya Murthy, the Principal Management Consultant in Arcadis, the leading global design and consulting firm with branches in 70 countries and over 25,000 employees. Ms. Supriya is a seasoned global program manager driving transformational change in corporate governance, business intelligence, and strategic planning. Supriya was born and brought up in Bangalore and now lives in Virginia with her husband Aditya and her twin daughters. Supriya is a rank holder at her graduate and postgraduate studies, and she has several hobbies like reading, blogging, and photography. Supriya has trained varied professionals like data scientists and dashboard geeks. This pandemic has proved our global teams work together to deliver client success regardless of geographical boundaries. Supriya, a first-generation immigrant in Virginia, will now enlighten us on the importance of social intelligence in this new normal. On behalf of everyone here, I welcome Ms. Supriya to Jyoti Nivas College. A warm welcome, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you very much. I hope you can all hear me, and I'm really excited to be here. Jyoti Nivas College is like a second home to me. My mother has been teaching in this college for all her career now, and it's humbling to be back in front of this group as well as be part of this community of faculty development program. I'm excited to be sharing my perspectives with this group of talented individuals today on social intelligence and its importance to thrive in the new normal. A little bit of a background on who I am, as you can see in this slide. It will help you understand my lens and my viewpoint. And I'm going to be sharing my perspectives largely through some personal stories today, because storytelling I have found is the most effective way to connect. And we'll find that connecting is our key to social intelligence. So you see that what I do for a living is that I'm a consultant. I advise companies what to do in order to improve their quality of life. And how I make fun or make work fun is by integrating work and life through interaction with various students in the College of William and Mary, my alma mater, by making sure that I'm building deep and strong connections with my clients, with my colleagues, as well as with my children, and tending my talents to the children community through theater as well as through advisory talks that I go and present to the children's school. And as you can see, I also love traveling with my family, and traveling is a way to expand your worldview, and I really embrace that as well. So what we see, and what Dr. Britto was also talking about previously, is that the crisis, the pandemic crisis, has presented an opportunity. This pandemic has brought unrest, uncertainty, and a deep sadness that's lying beneath the facade of predictability and family time, and also the work from home, stay at home routine has afforded us. Our relationships and our patients are getting tested every day at home. We are raising our kids in a bubble, and we are beginning to run out of ideas to stay busy and to keep our kids emotionally, socially, and intellectually engaged. And this global pandemic continues death march around us. And we grapple with when will we get back to normal again, or what will even the new normal look like for our professional and academic careers, for our relationships, as well as for our organizational strategy. When will our kids go back to school unfettered, and how will they start to learn as they should, surrounded by non-socially distant peers? And when will travel, because you all know that we all love to travel, be filled with joy and abandon? And when will we be immune to this novel virus that has upended our life? Not knowing this has definitely made us restless and anxious. And when crisis presents an opportunity, it becomes important for us to take ownership of that feeling, to know it, to do it, and to be it. We're battling the feeling of this uncertainty with a positive spin, because cabin fever is a luxury. Innovation and creativity, whether it is for our own clients or for our family, should not skip a beat. And we are realizing that we are resilient. We are surrounded by people we love, and we have the power to share this love and give back to those that need it. We will get through this together. And we are beginning to realize that when crisis presents an opportunity, we need to own it. We need to know it. We need to do it, and we need to be it. And we'll realize through the course of the next few slides in this webinar, let's discover what that means and how this is relevant in the context of social intelligence. One of the first things we observed when we began to get ready for the new normal was that as the amount of digital work increased and the amount of physical work decreased, like what we're seeing in this pandemic, our notions of employment and work changed profoundly. We quickly proved that digital work doesn't require roads and factories. It doesn't require us to commute and be stressed about our commutes. All it requires is a laptop and a really strong internet connection for the most part. Equipment that we all have access to in our homes. Again, for the most part, we're privileged to have that access. The need for offices, for supervisors, as well as for rigid employment arrangements diminished. And a pathway to almost a digital meritocracy emerged, which looks like what you see in this image above. When you need to get ready for the new normal, being prepared is the first step to get empowered. And what does that mean? You need to evaluate, and we all need to evaluate, if we are leading in a healthy manner. Are we leading in a network? Are we leading from a distance, and are we good at leading from a distance? And are we leading as innovation progresses? And this involves appreciation, it involves communication, it involves modeling, it involves encouraging collaboration, and it also involves dealing with the digital media. So how is this paradigm shift happening? And what's changing? So we all talked about the paradigm shift, and this shift is happening in the culture. And what do we need in order for us to be best suited to thrive in it? Let's take the workplace, for example. The workplace is changing with flexible office solutions, flexible work locations, as well as flexible working. We've all embraced it and we've all been taking advantage of it. Collaboration has changed. We are sharing data more often than before. We are networking with people. We are working with self-governing teams. We also have begun to realize that empowerment has become the name of the game and the need of the hour, where employees and teams are being expected to self-direct their work, as well as democratize decision-making and obtain direction through feedback as opposed to detailed instruction. Leadership paradigms have changed as well, where it becomes important to lead with influence and not necessarily just with positional authority. And that is key when you're moderating human network. You're guiding through vision. You're shifting your leadership style to coaching and advice. And last but not the least, culture is also changing, where there is focus on innovation, the promotion of transparency, as well as building of a sense of unity. So what's really changing, right? It's about the shifting nature of relationships between the people and organization and the changing social processes and the way in which things are taking place. And COVID-19 has just accelerated that. Like we just discussed, the move from hierarchies to network, where you're being collaborative, which means that you're not just doing good team working, but you're also allowing yourself and others to challenge each other and engage in a robust dialogue, regardless of their position or status. You're moving from controlling to empowering. You're creating autonomous teams, as well as you are making sure that design, whether it is user-centric design for systems and apps, or it is design for buildings, is taking the actual human into consideration. And that's what is driving the move from planning to design thinking, where the user is put in the center of the entire experience, as well as the shift from a traditional mindset to entrepreneurial thinking, where your employees and your colleagues are encouraged and are supported to have innovative ways of working, which implies more experimentation, more risk-taking, and a willingness to learn from mistakes. So you're encouraging them to make mistakes and saying, it's okay to fail, but fail fast so that you can learn from your mistakes, and creating that culture of it's a safe place to learn and grow. And you're also adapting and building adaptive, agile process where your processes are not taking the traditional 6 months to 9 months to implement certain things, but you are moving quickly through iterative loops so that customer feedback can be obtained, improvements can be factored into the ongoing design, and updates to your process and system can be made. And this is changing in all contexts. And as we can see, the academia is adapting quickly, is being agile, is leaning towards process thinking, design thinking. So this is pervading all streams, not just the organizational consulting work streams. And amidst this all, social intelligence becomes paramount. So let's dive into that. So social intelligence is a set of interpersonal competencies that inspire others to be effective. Social intelligence is key to career and life success. We've always known it, but now more than ever, that has become paramount. And social intelligence is mostly learned. It develops from experience with people and learning from successes and failures in social settings. It is more commonly referred to as tact, common sense, or street smart. A highly socially intelligent person can carry on conversations with a wide variety of people and is tactful and appropriate in what is said. Socially intelligent people also learn how to play various social roles. They are well versed in the informal roles or norms that govern social interaction. In other words, they know how to play the game of social interaction. as a result. They come off as socially sophisticated and wise. Socially intelligent persons are also great listeners and they are great people watchers. Individuals high in SI or social intelligence attune themselves to what others are saying and how they are behaving in order to try to read what the other person is thinking or feeling. And all of this now in this digitally connected world where we are socially and physically distant from everyone around us except our own immediate family becomes extremely important in this changing landscape where connection, collaboration, communication, human-centered design and engineering, and people-centric leadership become the prerequisite for success, as we've just seen in the past slides. So here are some of our famous individuals: Oprah, Barack Obama, Ernest Hemingway. They all have said something that is very resonating about social intelligence. Oprah says, single most important lesson she's learned in the 25 years of talking every single day to people is that we all want to be validated. We all want to be understood. And Obama says, don't say the first thing that pops into your head. Have a little bit of self-editing function. That's good advice for life. And of course, Ernest Hemingway take with, when people talk, listen completely. Most people don't listen. So individuals like these with high social intelligence can sense how other people feel and know intuitively what to say in social situations. They seem self-assured, even in a larger crowd. And you might think of these folks as having people skills, but what they truly possess is social intelligence. There are some people who you may have established in your social circles. You may know someone, a leader, a teacher, a friend, a coach, a mentor, a family member, whoever you think of as a highly socially intelligent person. Have you ever wondered how they came to be that way? No one is born socially intelligent. Instead, socially intelligent individuals learn and practice a set of skills over time. And people who are socially intelligent display these core traits that help them communicate and connect with others. So let's look at what these traits and attributes are so we can thrive in the new normal with a socially intelligent consciousness and a socially intelligent personality. And as you know, I'm a consultant. I like checklists. I like to make lists. So here's a socially intelligent checklist for you. So first of all, do you have empathy? Do you understand what motivates other people, even those from different backgrounds? And now more than ever with the current climate of racial equality, it is more important to be empathetic. Are you sensitive to others' needs? What about attunement? Do you listen attentively and think about how others feel? Are you attuned to others' moods? Trust me, I need to know this. I have twin 10-year-olds. I need to be attuned to everyone's moods. What about organizational awareness? Do you appreciate the culture and values of the group that you belong to or the organization that you work with? Do you understand social networks? And do you know of the spoken as well as the unspoken norms? Next, do you understand influence? Can you persuade others by engaging them in discussion and appealing to their self-interest? Gone are the days where you walk into a room and just because you're a manager or a supervisor, expect your team to listen to you or even your kids to listen to you. The power of influence now more than ever becomes paramount for a socially intelligent existence. And do you get the support from key people? How do you develop that influence? How do you develop others through that influence? Do you coach and mentor others with compassion? And do you personally invest the time and energy in mentoring? I personally gain a lot of energy in mentoring, and I'm going to talk about my example here in a minute. Do you also provide feedback to people that they can use for their development? And can you inspire? Do you articulate a compelling vision? Do you build group pride? Do you foster a positive emotional tone where you walk in the room and people are energized by your existence, by your speech, by your attitude, by your energy? And do you lead by bringing out the best in people? And finally, the good old teamwork. Do you solicit input from everyone on the team? Do you support all team members? And do you encourage cooperation? A great checklist for us to keep handy, and I'm happy to share for all of us to keep track as we go about our everyday. Let's look at some examples. I really want to make sure that the next few examples are bringing to life some of the attributes we learned in the social intelligence checklist. The first one is about data and digital. That's the name of the game. That's the latest norm, right? Food, clothing, shelter, and digital. Those are our basic needs, right? So data and digital helps you stay empowered. It increases your influence as well as your social and organizational awareness. And as organizations reopen, we're seeing the reopenings happening around the world. There are new safety and surveillance measures. For example, staff proximity and workers' health is being monitored. We are thinking about what the workforce of the future looks like. We're thinking about, do we even really need to go back to work? Can we continue to work from home? There is an increased focus on safety and resiliency. And amidst all this, data and digital has become key to increase our influence as well as to increase our resilience as individuals and as organizations. So in the context of social intelligence, this means tying this human-centric data, business impact. And as individuals and as organizations, we really need to start moving from converting data into intelligence and analyzing that data into meaningful insights that can be disseminated to make smarter business impactful decisions. Easy, right? Well, not so much. It's certainly an evolution, and it takes a team, it takes executive buy-in. However, once you have that team, once you have that buy-in, the process of moving from a small project to a large scalable program and make that program repeatable and available to everyone through cool digital tech that's visual, that's interactive, and it's available anytime, anywhere. Trust me, this is what I do for a living, I know. So the key here is use data to your advantage, use digital to your advantage to become increasingly influential and to build your resilience. And amidst all this, collaboration has gone completely digital as well. But the power of empathy and human connection continues to increase more than ever. You're not able to make that eye contact or shake the hand or hug your colleagues and your friends or your family when you meet them. So that connection, that empathy, that attunement, that human connection needs to increase when you are interacting with individuals in a digital format across the screen through a video conference. And that's another important aspect that's changing in the organizational landscape, whether it is a consulting company, a global brand, or whether it is a college, where social intelligence becomes key, that the power of empathy has not gone anywhere. And it's important to ensure that the attributes we refer to in our social intelligence checklist become front and center. So what you see on the screen is a recent picture that we took with Mars, the candy company, where we did a design thinking workshop in a completely digital format using Teams, where Mars, we are helping them build a process. And as you can see, they're saying the world we want tomorrow starts with how we do business today. And it is such a socially intelligent, socially conscious company. And it's really amazing to work for a company like that. And our clients are seeing how collaboration is increasing their resilience as well, completely in digital format. And then there is the connections that increase the innovation and productivity. Corporate demands have not changed. Our clients still demand the best from us, whether it's digital innovation, whether it is top-notch performance, whether it is risk reduction or cost savings. So this globally diverse team, and I'm fortunate to be leading this team, is spread around the world in different time zones. Most of them are working from home. In fact, all of them are working from home, sometimes with very iffy internet connections, with various family situations, with kids running around behind them, with spouses, as well as elder care to be considered. But we still need to work together as a team to collaborate, to innovate, to stay productive, to stay autonomous, right? So while we're figuring out how this pandemic will change the world, we get energized knowing that our digital collaboration and our value proposition of integrated governance and innovation and digital transformation to our clients keeps on going. And really amazing that our team has come together. We've not skipped a beat. We've actively embraced the challenge that COVID-19 has thrown our way. We're being responsive. We're being collaborative. We're being accountable to each other and to our clients, all from our respective home offices. And this is a testament to the team pride, the team trust, the team connection, as well as the social intelligence that a leader needs to have. And everyone of these individuals in the team needs to have. They need to be attuned to each other's needs. They need to be able to influence each other through inspiration, through engagement, through discussion, and tie individual self-interest to project goals, to organizational goals. And also, each and every individual in the team, especially the leaders in the team, need to be able to take the time to develop these individuals, to coach, to mentor with compassion, to be cognizant of the various extenuating circumstances as well as limiting circumstances that we may be working from home with. And they also need to be able to provide proactive as well as constructive feedback to each of these individuals so that work product is elevated and innovation to clients does not get hindered. And there is also the amazing opportunity that most of us have to pay back, pay it forward to our community. And I've been able to do that through consistent and committed mentoring relationships. And this has really served as a lifeline, both for myself as well as for the various students that I interact with. And what you see over here is a picture from the College of William and Mary. These are the students from the MBA class, and I interact with them on a regular basis for just career opportunities, for increasing motivation, project coaching, as well as for increasingly building the connection. As you can see, everyone's working from home. College coaching and college teaching has shifted completely to a digital format. And we just talked about it. Another attribute that's going to help us increase our social intelligence and that will help us spread the wealth of social intelligence amongst others is through mentoring. And consistent and committed mentoring relationships are beneficial on any given day, but during the times of crisis, such as now, they are vital. And to be able to nurture business talent, high quality, high potential business talent from my alma mater here is personally very rewarding, as well as being able to share client stories and creative problem solving tools while staying positively future focused. We have the power to create the energy around us, even during the frightening global pandemic. And to be able to give back and pay forward while increasing connection is an amazing feeling. And if you think about it, this is also a direct result of influence, of coaching, of inspiration, the attributes, all of which we refer to in our social intelligence check-in. I also personally benefit from mentors as well. I work with a group of diverse mentors from all walks of life. I call them my personal board of directors on a regular basis so that I can stay intellectually, emotionally, and socially savvy so we can not just survive, but thrive in the environment in which we live and work. And that is so valuable to keep the connection alive. And this was a tough one, actually, an opportunity to take learning in our own hands. Because if you think about it, we've been used and almost ready for digital ways of working and digital collaboration for a while now. I used to travel quite a bit for work, and this year I haven't traveled much at all because of COVID-19 travel restriction. But I could sit down in the home office, in the comfort of my home office, and talk to anybody in Hong Kong or China or India. And it was just like I was in the same room with them. And this was even before COVID-19. But I was not ready to homeschool my kids, COVID-19 or not. Social distancing put parents with school-age children in a tizzy as they monitor homeschooling and thought through how to keep their children academically and socially engaged. And while I appreciate how our schools and colleges are pivoting to the continuity of learning and thinking through virtual learning models and even adopting virtual learning models, my anxious energy could not be contained until the entire full plans were executed. And I really needed a way during this pandemic, during the last few months, and even now through the summer, to keep the kids socially engaged as well as intellectually challenged. We soon began to realize that our kids needed more social and academic, non-parent-led interaction. So we took control back. Again, going back to the mantra of own it, know it, do it, be it. We took control back and we said, all right, this is the opportunity to take learning in our own hands. Let's keep the academic, emotional, and social intelligence in balance for our kids. So we created custom learning schedules where friends, my sister, my brother-in-law, they became teachers. They were voluntold to coach the kids on science or on German or on computer science. We started seeking out outside of school what the learning opportunities were. We started to embrace apps where digital learning became mainstream, where the kids could get onto a Zoom call and log in with multiple other kids from around the world and log into a math class or log into a creative writing class. The marketplace for online classes is rich. So motivated learners, parents, teachers, they can connect together and create great learning experiences for themselves. My friend and I also recently began an online video channel for quick and easy cultural dishes that kids can cook themselves and that pack in the punch of spice. And it's been going really well. We motivated our kids to try a hand at simple, traditional, or even modern recipes of our culture and learn some life skills along the way, like project management, measurement, confidence, public speaking. So there is no excuse to be not connected to learning, whether it is war or quarantine, whether it is for your kids or whether it's for our own self. And learning and being socially aware and intellectually sharp is a great way to stay socially intelligent. Your worldview, the wider your worldview is, more intelligent you are socially and emotionally. So we're doing our bit to prevent the COVID learning slide for ourselves and our kids. We've started book clubs, debate clubs, reading clubs, you name it. We've also started volunteering digitally to promote early childhood literacy through read aloud story time. So the girls are recording simple short stories that we are sending to Anganwadis and other nonprofit organizations where children who are having limited literacy skills can learn English through following along these read along stories. And the upside of the quarantine has also been, amidst all this angst, that our family time, our quality time has increased. We've embraced digital dining, virtual happy hours, Zoom quizzes and games with an internationally spread family and friend circle. And personally, this connection has energized me, has energized the people around me. And having that connection is extremely correlating to being socially intelligent. Connection improves social intelligence. And I've found that, I've been reaching out to colleagues and clients who I have not been in touch with over a really long period of time. And it's surprising that I'm having more meaningful conversations now than I've had in my past life pre-COVID that I've not made the time for before. So the importance of social intelligence as well as the need to hone my social intelligence has become paramount. And I'm really happy that I have owned it, I've known it, and I'm doing it, and I'm being it. I've been the change that I have wanted to see. So bringing it all together, staying connected is vital. Now more than ever, our social connection increases our social intelligence. And this pandemic, more than anything before, has proven how global teams work collaboratively together to deliver great client success. We've seen colleges and organizations pivoting to digital learning, regardless of physical and geographical boundaries. This pandemic has also tested our patience and tolerance, as we've also seen, as professionals and parents. And it's also demonstrated to us how resilient and tenacious we can be. So I'm hoping that my perspectives, my stories that I've shared as a first generation immigrant living, leading, and parenting in the USA has been helpful on social intelligence. And as you thrive, I want to leave you with some messages. It's really important to remember to own your personality. Again, social acceptance leads directly to social intelligence, with no apology or with no attempt to fit in, whether it is your accent, your quirks, or the color of your hair. Because trust me, being alone at home, working through a screen, tests your self-confidence big time without the social interaction, without the human interaction. So really take the time to be authentic and to be comfortable with who you are. And this helps you empathize, and this helps you connect and form strong relationships with others. And of course, be nice, be kind, be smart, dial it up a notch, right? And let your work speak for you. Return phone calls, follow through, put yourself on the hook. Take care of your clients. Your clients will remember you. The people that look up to you and care for you will remember you now, because we all need that human connection now more than ever. And don't forget to innovate. Don't forget to stay future focused. This too shall pass. But what did you do in this time? That is what you're going to remember 10 years from now or 5 years from now. So innovate. Don't settle for average. Always better your best. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for your team. Stand up for your work. And find people that can support you and surround yourself with them. Find people who you can lean into. Find your personal board of directors. Give more than you get. My mother always says, the more you give, the more you get. So give more than you get. And be the first one to applaud someone else's efforts. Also be the first one to help someone else who is struggling. Own it, know it, do it, be it. These are old-fashioned values, but they'll always stay in style in the changing world. So with that, I'm going to stop here and would love to answer any questions that the team has. Thank you for the opportunity. So I see a question on the chat channel there. It says, has digital collaboration resulted in digital hyperproductivity, and what are the dangers of the same? I think that's a great question. I'm going to attempt to answer that. I definitely think that digital collaboration has resulted in digital hyperproductivity. I think we are always on, and the option to turn off has become completely optional. And I'll tell you what that means. So typically I had a commute to work and a commute back from work. And the commute was when I would think, plan, decompress from the day, process all the positives and the negatives that has gone on during the day. I also use my travel time when I would fly to clients to think through that. Now, all I have to do is roll out of bed, put on my makeup, and come in front of my computer. So, and do the same thing after the evening. So the boundaries that previously existed are blurring. And if you're not careful, you turn into this machine that is always itching to answer your email, or always itching to get back to that client, or finish just that one last task, or take a call when you're cooking, or take a call when you're walking relating to work. And this creates this extreme cycle of no relaxation and no break from constantly thinking about work. So it's really important to build those boundaries. If it even means that you're getting up in the morning, you're going for a walk around the block, and you're coming back in and then starting your day. Or you shut down your computer at the end of the day, again, walk around the block, decompress, and then integrate back into family life. So creating those boundaries is extremely important. Focusing on your health, focusing on your well-being, making time for exercise and healthy eating, as well as the increased connections like we were talking about, is also very important, because that lends a perspective. It improves your attitude, it improves your outlook. So you're not ruminating in something negative that happened during the day. And it also gives you that expanded worldview. And of course, contributing your time to the community, whether it is to your own set of proteges, or to your colleagues, or to others, whether it's your kids or your kids' friends, will really help you feel fulfilled as well. So absolutely, let's strive to create that balance of how digital collaboration can be very taxing, and sometimes even stressful, the dangers of being always on and camera ready, and how that can create burnout. So absolutely, let's be mindful of that and build in some positive behaviors and habits, like the speaker before me was saying, in order to improve our quality of life. So that's a great question. Thank you. And I'll hand it back to the moderator for any further remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Supriya. I have another question for you. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the first question to you is, given the isolation that we experienced because of social distancing, do you think that honing our skills on social intelligence will demand a lot from us?
Absolutely. I think that is exactly the right ask, right? Where we are being socially distant, how can we continue to keep the connections through social intelligence without having the luxury of giving someone a hug or giving someone a handshake or giving someone a pat on the back, without physical tokens of affection? How do you keep the connection alive? So absolutely, social intelligence has become an ask. I wouldn't call it a demand. I would call it a prerequisite for success, because we are constantly learning and adapting, and social intelligence becomes an imperative for success or a prerequisite for success, that we need to learn and adapt to becoming socially intelligent. And don't wait until someone asks you to be socially intelligent. Take that upon yourself, use the social intelligence checklist, and see if you qualify and say yes to most of the questions that are in the checklist.
I have another question for you, ma'am.
Sure.
Has physical distancing or the culture of working from home affected innovation and creativity?
Absolutely. And I would say in a positive way. And it's all driven by self-motivation or motivation of the people around you. Again, social intelligence plays a very important role there. Now more than ever, it's important to stay future-centric as well as innovation-centric. A lot of our clients are looking at what does the design of the buildings of the future look like. We are helping our clients think through that. Our companies are innovating regularly and every day. You see how Microsoft Teams has evolved in the last 3 months. You see that we have launched into space. So innovation and productivity have not skipped a beat. And there is no excuse for not being innovative and not being productive. Yes, I would have understood if the pandemic had stopped our life 10 years before this, 15 years before this. We would have said, all right, I can't go to work, I can't access my files, so there's nothing I can do, and my style is cramped. But now, where everything is available anytime, anywhere, digitally at your fingertips, there is no excuse for not being productive or not being innovative. However, there are some exceptions to that, where a lot of individuals may not have access to digital technology or may not be in ideal circumstances where innovation and productivity could be encouraged. So it becomes our prerogative as well as our responsibility as the ones with privilege to extend that privilege to those individuals and to those communities. For example, donate to organizations so digital literacy can increase, with laptops, iPads, etc. for schools. Contribute your time to individuals to tutor them on digital skills. Spend time with your grandparents, with your parents, to get them up to speed on how to use digital media to connect to virtual conferences and parties with their friends and colleagues. So definitely extend that privilege, ensure that you're spreading the wealth of digital literacy and digital equality and democracy to people around you, and try not to skip a beat on innovation and productivity. That would be my response.
Great. I have another question for you, ma'am. What are the different activities that we could engage our children with?
A lot of them, like I was sharing, have been something that we have tried and tested. One is digital book clubs. You can get together with a bunch of parent friends and have a group that meets regularly to read certain books and then discuss those books in a digital format. And kids are really savvy with digital technology and for the most part can run these book clubs independently. And of course, selecting the right books is a fantastic way to expand your kids' worldview as well with the current issues that are going on with racial inequality and social unrest. So it's a fantastic way to bring varied global perspectives to the lives of the children. And then, of course, you can encourage them to participate in, public speaking endeavors through, say, debate clubs or speech clubs. You can get them to do podcasts and post those podcasts on the web. There are lots of resources out there where the children can expand their skills. Right now, there is a rich, vibrant marketplace, digitally, of course, enabled that the children can tap into. And of course, the parents need to help them to tap into that, where they can learn new skills, learn new languages, learn music, learn dance. They don't need to go physically to the tutor's home or to the tutor's location, but they can log into a Zoom conference and learn something that they previously wouldn't have had the time to learn. And then, of course, the good old-fashioned, conferences with friends and parents and grandparents never goes out of style. And then, of course, have your kids, if they are old enough, volunteer as well. Digital volunteering is big now. They can contribute their time. They can make math and ship it to healthcare workers. They can teach online. They can tutor other students, as well as they can, make videos that are educational relating to science, technology, education, and math. We call it STEM. So they can participate in STEM videos. So there's tons of educational opportunities out there, and digital has made it really easy for us to keep our kids engaged creatively.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering all our questions. Social intelligence now encounters a new reality, that which we call the new normal. The new normal, as some may say, is a normal yet to be understood. But as challenging as this new normal may be, it has posed as an opportunity to take learning in our own hands. And as you rightly said, ma'am, that this crisis has brought us all together and not stopped from knowing what the community needs for support. This testing time has surely helped us build some strong connections and strike meaningful conversations. Thank you, Ms. Supriya, for the enriching and very gripping presentation. We are very happy that the skills needed for the new normal has been addressed so beautifully by you. Surely the boundaries that previously existed have disappeared. For those of you who joined us for this session and missed the first session this morning, we had a very enriching talk by Dr. Darryl. I thank you, sir, for that very informative presentation. Thank you for leaving us with the thought that mortality is the present and nothing has and nothing will change the now. I thank our principal, Dr. Sister Elizabeth, Ms. Supriya, our resource person, Dr. Darryl, our resource person of the first session, the organizers, the technical and support staff, and everybody else for the successful completion of day 3 of the 5-day International FDP. With that, I applaud both our resource people for the day, as it was a real pleasure having you here on screen with us today. May I now request our principal to say a few words.
At the outset, I would like to congratulate and thank in a very special way. I would like to thank Supriya. I think, Supriya, we are indeed very proud of you. I think you have done a fantastic job in doing really the best that is possible. I think you, being a young mother with the twin daughters and your practical experiences that you shared so well with us, how important it is, social intelligence, if we have, that we can certainly make our lockdown period, this pandemic period, a very useful time in order to really strengthen the strategies
with regard to social intelligence. I think you have reached out in a very unique way this morning, and I'm sure it is midnight past there for you in United States, Virginia, but you still look so lively on the screen. That shows how much you love Jyoti Nivas and Supriya. We are indeed very proud of you for being here with us, and I'm sure you have ignited a spark of enthusiasm in many youngsters and many staff who have heard you this morning. So on behalf of all of us, we would like to thank you. And before I close, I would like to make a very special mention of our very dear Darryl Britto, Dr. Darryl Britto. I think you spoke this morning like a priest, very profound, very meaningful. You brought alive to us with regard to the blissful ignorance and phobic endurance. I think there was so much touch of divine, the spark of divine as you spoke. You brought in so much of philosophy, so much of reflection, so much of thought. You spoke so plainly the simple truths, profound truths. I think it was a beautiful experience to begin this day. I think Supriya and Darryl made a fantastic combination this morning when Darryl took us through the profound truths and Supriya brought us to the social intelligence and how to adapt oneself in a very eased manner. So on behalf of Jyoti Nivas, management, every staff member, the students, and all of us here who have rendered fantastic technical support this morning to all of us. So on that note, I would like some of our staff who are here in my office right now to join me as we give a good round of applause to both of you, to Dr. Darryl Britto and to Supriya. I would like them to join here so that you can see them on the screen. And I'm sure, Supriya, you can have a look at your mom and come this. Yeah, come. Sister Nimi, join us. Yes. Come. We would like to give you a very good round of applause for that fantastic. Thank you, and both of you be blessed. Dr. Darryl Britto and Supriya, be blessed.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Please do rest. I'm sure you missed out on your sleep. Please do rest. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. I request all the participants to kindly join us tomorrow at 10:25 a.m. Thank you. Have a good day.